Akansha, it's great to be here with you.
It's great to be here too. I'm super excited for this conversation.
So, why don't you start by telling us about yourself?
I have two young kids, a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old boy. So I certainly get the share of the energy the two boys bring. I also lead strategy and operations for AWS. I've been at Amazon for 3 years or so, but I've been in the tech industry for the last decade and a half. And yes, living it every day as a working mom.
So, you've got quite a lot going on. So, what have you learned from trying to balance work and parenting? And what's your best advice for other working moms?
The word balance means that you're in harmony all the time, and my life doesn't ever feel like it's in harmony. It's more integration that I've kind of embraced for many years since I've had young kids. And what that looks for me is I am a planner, so I plan and prioritize the set of things I need to do in my life. And when I say life, it's the work and family and the million other things that's going on uh, in a day, in a week. And I try to prioritize on the things that I need to be present for, whether it's for work or whether it's for family. And that's how I kind of manage my integration, so to speak. So every morning, whether it's showing up for my son's soccer game or taking and attending a parent teacher meeting for my little one, or it's the big presentation at work, I really do write down the top 5 things I need to do in the day for life. And that helps me being intentional on what I'm prioritizing, and feel good about hopefully that integration piece we talk about versus the balance of picking and choosing one versus the other.
Wow, that's a great approach. What's one thing you wish you had known earlier on?
I'll cheat a little bit and I'll say two. I think one is actually saying no. I wish I would have been okay saying no to whatever it is and not trying to do everything in the humanly time possible. I wish I wasn't trying to be a super mom or thinking about whatever that image is, and just kind of being okay with what I chose to do and do it well. Um, and that's kind of the thing I try to embrace now, is just you know enough, like my 80% is good enough.
How do you make yourself feel comfortable with the trade-offs that you have to make when you're juggling work and your children?
I think as parents, we always go through mom guilt and parent guilt on, you wish you could have done this differently. So I think for me, the comfort comes from a place of, again, just embracing that I was present for the things that I prioritized or chose to be present for, and making trade-offs where things were important to be done, but not super critical. I'll give you an example. And I'm sure I'm not the only parent. Like, there are days where you're working like crazy and you have an early morning meeting and you realize you weren't present to make the best breakfast for your kids. And it's okay if my kids ate Nutella peanut butter bread for 2 days in a row. And I think it just works for me and my family, where I said that's an okay choice that I'm comfortable with trade-off. Or work travel. Like in my work, I have to do a lot of work travel. And many times it's been okay to say no, because I need to show up for X, Y, and Z things for my kids or my family. And I think that's the other piece, kind of going back to your earlier question, Cindy, is I wish somebody would have told me that it's actually okay to tell people at your work the trade-offs you're making and that you're comfortable with it. Now, again, you do it in a respectful manner. But I haven't had the resistance once I've communicated and said those things.
So we were talking before the interview, and you told me that things have been particularly difficult lately. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The last, I would say, 2 to 3 years have certainly felt a very bumpy, exhausting road. Particularly, I'm sure a lot of families with younger kids have felt this with COVID, but I think for us, the last 2 to 3 years has also been a journey with our older kid who's 8 years old. He's been always different, as they say, differently wired. And we didn't know what was the difference that we needed to sort of accommodate or meet him where he is. And after sort of 2.5 years of long sessions with therapists and neurologists and evaluations and all sorts of therapy, by the way, which is maybe a whole lot of conversation, we learned that he's on the spectrum, and he was diagnosed as what used to be called Asperger's, which is the high functioning spectrum. And that, there's a little bit of a relief in knowing after, again, that long 2.5 years of journey on what is the need that our son has. But now the hard work also starts as just finding the right set of support system, right help. And again, the list is long ending. I'm sure any families that have had special needs kids, often, especially moms, I think, I will say I've gone through this journey where I've thought about, can I do this while keeping a career? Do I leave my job and devote time? Do I balance the two, right? But I think this is where, for me, I realized that, working was equally important in defining who I am. I enjoy my career, and that wasn't necessarily what would take me away from supporting my son where it needs to be. But that also means there's just a lot of stuff to do, from finding therapists to finding either you taking them and dropping them off and sitting in parking lots and taking your work meetings, or finding sitters constantly and figuring out, how to make all of that happen. And then after all of that, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you realize that you can't control everything. And it is a journey, right? As they say, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And that's how it feels. You're not trying to solve a problem. You're trying to understand another human being and what they need. And as a parent, what are the best ways you can support them? And if there's two sort of pieces of advice, Cindy, I would leave for anybody who finds themselves in that situation is, you're doing your best. Every single parent intrinsically just wants to do the best they can, and that's enough. Because again, it's a long road, and doing your best is going to be good enough. And second, don't hesitate to ask for help. The amount of help I've asked from my friends, my girlfriends at work, sitters just to pick up and drop off my kids, is all the reason I'm able to do and kind of have a working life. So ask for help, outsource everything that doesn't require you, whether it's your laundry or your cooking or driving, or and that's okay. Like, those trade-offs are okay, because what you're trying to do is be present for your child and the needs that they have.